will be recorded and made available to the public. Previous webinars are available on our website, and we'll share the link after the session. If you don't want your box to be shown on the video, you can just turn your video off. And then I believe that should make it so that you're hidden from the recording. So it's up to you if you want to use your camera or not. Okay. So hi, everyone. For those of you who have just joined us, my name is Kelly Masson. I'm so excited to be here. Before we jump in, of course, I'd like to start by acknowledging the stewards of this beautiful land that we live on. I'm coming to you today from the traditional and ancestral lands of the Snema and Sinawas people. That is now Nanaimo. As we acknowledge Earth Day today and this weekend, I really want to encourage you to slow down for a minute, connect with nature, get outside, look around, hug a tree, hug 2 trees, listen to the birds, all that stuff, and spare a moment of gratitude for the Indigenous folks where you live who've been caring for this land since time immemorial. If you'd like to share whose traditional territories you're joining in from, you're welcome to share that in the chat. And we'd also love to hear from you if there are any topics that you'd like to learn about for a future WeCafé or a future session. Please let us know. We're going to be launching a feedback poll at the end of this session where you can share that information. So let's get started. This is me. I already told you about me. I'm a business advisor at WeBC. I want to start by just letting you know a few things about WeBC. So what do we offer? We provide support for your small business journey. We have financing to get businesses started, operating capital to fuel growth, and we operate with more flexibility than traditional lenders. And that's because we have a holistic approach and provide loans that are based on your business viability, not based on formulas like other lenders. So that means that we can provide loans to a diverse range of women-owned businesses and support you with integrated services that also include things like business advisory, skills development, that kind of thing. We also have a mentoring program. You can connect with a network of women entrepreneurs and experts from around BC who can support you and inspire you. And you can learn more about our services at we-bc.ca. Make sure you sign up for our e-blast, and that will make sure that you get notified of any new programs. We have a ton of great offerings coming up. Our mentoring program is getting relaunched a little bit. We're starting our new programming for skills development, so make sure you check in there. Without further ado, let's get started with today's webinar. If you're feeling inspired to make earth-friendly choices in your life or business, educating yourself can be both inspiring and discouraging. You might wonder, does one bad action counteract all the hard work you do? Do you have to sacrifice profit to make a difference? You've got questions. We've got maybe not answers, but opinions and thoughts. So today we're going to hear from some women business owners who work collectively to use environmentally friendly business practices. I'm going to introduce everyone in just a second. Before I do, I did want to help us arrive here again. I don't know if anyone still subscribes to the newspaper. I get the newspaper on Saturdays, and there was this article, Uncharted Waters. It's about folks in Vietnam who are being displaced by climate change. 1 million people are being displaced from the Mekong Delta due to issues with rising waters and that kind of stuff. And these stories are playing out all over the world. If you're at this session, you already care about the environment. But I wanted to raise that article as a reminder that what.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you properly. You sound too distant.
Is anyone else having trouble hearing me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Hi, everyone. Unfortunately, to deal with that, I'm going to have to stop sharing my screen. Oh, hi, everyone. It's my.
I hear you okay, but.
Perhaps everyone could also try turning up their volume on the other end. Perhaps that may help if Can folks hear me now?
Yes.
Perfect.
Definitely.
Yep, I can hear you fine.
Yes,
Wonderful.
much better.
Thanks, everyone. I wonder what happened. Those things are usually great. Sometimes they crap out though. So thanks for letting me know. Let's get back to it. So like I said, obviously you care about climate change and sustainability if you're here, but it's just a reminder that our actions as consumers and as business owners really have a ripple effect throughout the world. So I invite us all to think globally as well as locally today in our conversation. Okay, so I'm delighted to introduce you to our panelists today. We have Lisa Hemingway, who's the co-owner and director of creativity and opportunities at Ilio Creative Alliance. We have Umida Switlow, who is the co-founder and CEO of Naledo, and Angela Nagy, who is the founder of Green Step Solutions. Thank you everyone for joining us. So I am going to stop the sharing again as we get into our session. So first of all, let's just start with some introductions. I'd like everyone to just provide a brief introduction of themselves and their business. Let's start with Lisa.
Hi, everybody. I'm Lisa Hemingway. I go by the pronouns she, her. Co-owner, director of creativity and opportunities at ELO. I like to say I help change makers amplify their impacts with inspired communication design. And I am here on the unceded territory of the Snuneymuxw and Coast Salish in Nanaimo on Vancouver Island. So our firm does communication design solutions, kind of everything from branding, reports, events, websites, all that jazz for B Corps, progressive impact businesses, nonprofits, institutions, social enterprise, clients we really get behind. So I think sustainability has really been core belief for me in my career. And since hanging out my first business in 2006, it's really been core to the way I've run my business, and it's just continues to get more refined as I go. I think that's something I really love about being an entrepreneur, is just the autonomy to change it. You're like, that's weird, and this is better. Okay, so let's change it. We just keep learning and building. So yeah, that's me.
Great, Angela, can you provide a little introduction?
Yes, good morning, everyone. Angela Nagy from Green Step Solutions. We are headquartered in beautiful Kelowna, British Columbia, the traditional and unceded territory of the Silks Okanagan people. We work across Canada and internationally now to help small and medium-sized enterprises measure and improve their sustainability performance and measure and reduce their carbon footprint. And we do that within a number of industries, from a number of sizes of business, from one-person solopreneurs, and even some publicly traded companies, local governments, provincial and federal governments, and everyone in between.
Wonderful, thanks. And last but definitely not least, Umida.
Hi, my name is Umida Switlow. I guess I'm a serial entrepreneur and ended up doing a turmeric, truly turmeric by Naledo in Belize. So our Canadian company manages all the export and logistics, and our Belizean company is a B Corp. We work with 350 small scale growers and produce an award-winning turmeric paste and other turmeric powders. Hi, everyone.
Wonderful, thanks for those introductions. Let's jump right into it. Umida, I'm going to put it back on you.
Yes.
Can you tell us why incorporating sustainable practices in your business is important to you?
Well, I'm a biologist, marine biologist, and in 1974, way back then at UVic, we already knew the importance of carbon and CO2 emissions. And from then on, I always was very focused on the environment. And in fact, in working with the district of North Van and all kinds of other nonprofits, I always put the environment first. So I want to say that in making any business decision, I think about the environment first. Profit, yes, but environment first. So I base all that. And why is it important? Because I see the deterioration since 1974 in front of my eyes. In Belize, I see an ocean of plastic washing up on the shores. And it is, I always keep thinking, what can I do in my business and in the community?
Thank you so much. Lisa, do you have any thoughts on why incorporating sustainable practices is so important to you?
Yes, definitely. I think this was a great question to have, because sometimes you just go about your work and don't really think about the why behind it. So it was really nice to pause and think. And I really, as a young kid, I was super inspired by this idea of Mother Earth, exposed to it through the powwows in the Kamloops area when I went there in the summers with my grandparents. And that core, I don't have a lot of other spirituality, but that was so core to me growing up, is this concept of Mother Earth as a living organism. And I was that cheesy 90s kid who wore recycling symbols and sorted, went to the dump with my dad and like reduce our waste in the household. And it was really an obsession from a young age. So it was no surprise to me that it became really the core of my work as I went into my career in design. And I didn't want to go to another design agency and just make a bunch of crap that ends up in the landfill. I'd seen that, and I was just so aware of that it became a bit of an obsession. And I just really have framed my career around those values, and have had great influences. I worked at Nature's Path, and they are an amazing company, values led as well. Really influenced me at a young age. But I think you kind of take for granted some of these things that like you just know, and it's been great to reflect on that and go, okay, like we know the biggest way we can make an impact through my work at ELO is really to choose to amplify our clients' works, because we're a very small company, and so how can we get in there and make bigger impacts on the waste stream? So that's really kind of where I came at my passion for sustainability.
I like that. And I like the reference to values. I think as a business advisor, I'm meeting more and more businesses who are values driven. And I think we're starting to see that dichotomy of profit or planet, that you don't have to pick. And more people are leading that way. So Angela, you work with businesses every day as a sustainability advisor. So apart from values, which are obviously super important, what are some other reasons why business owners should take action to make their businesses more sustainable?
Well, I started Green Step to save the world. Literally, that was the reason we started. But I know not everybody necessarily shares that same passion as I do. And when I was getting started, a huge part, and today a huge part of the work that we do in helping business owners to understand the importance of sustainability is really focusing around the business case. So in addition to saving the planet, or maybe you're just, you don't feel quite as motivated around that particular draw, there are a number of other really important reasons why sustainability is important. And first and foremost, the world is changing very quickly. There are all kinds of policy pieces and legislation coming out from different governments. The EU is really taking the lead on that. And it's creating this ripple effect in pretty much every company out there. At some point in the next few years is going to be starting to ask questions like, well, what is your carbon footprint if you're supplying to me? Or what is the carbon risk of doing business with you? And if you're not doing work with other businesses and you're working more with consumers, there's a tremendous increase in demand from consumers for responsible business. So there's kind of an expectation now that you're doing something or everything you can to help minimize your impact. So there's a lot of research showing that consumer demand for responsible business is changing, as is employee demand. And I know a lot of business owners right now are struggling with attracting and retaining top talent. One of the pathways to doing that is tapping into those shared values around sustainability and creating at least a framework for a plan as to how you're going to integrate sustainability into your business to meet either pressure from government, pressure from your customers, or pressure from your employees. Oh, and one other really important thing I should note is there's a ton of cost savings, particularly if you're bricks and mortar type of business. When you start improving efficiency, operating more efficiently, reducing waste, reducing energy, reducing fuel, reducing material inputs, reducing waste that goes to the landfill, you can save a lot of money as well.
I love that. It's not just there's pressure coming from all sides in a way. And so I can see how if you can get ahead of that and set yourself up, you're going to be better poised to benefit and succeed going forward. And I think that kind of frames things over the course of time as well, like thinking about what sustainability used to be and what it's starting to come to mean today. Maybe I'll put this to you, Lisa. Do you think that it's sustainability has changed from 15, 20 years ago to where we are today when we talk about being a sustainable business?
Yeah, I definitely think we're at a really exciting time where I do feel like sustainability is coming into the mainstream, which is something I think everyone is, well, I'm just speaking for myself, I'm excited about it because I used to show up at design events and talk about FSC papers or like talk about reducing the waste stream, or even like, why do you need that brochure? And people didn't know what I was talking about or why I was being the troublemaker and asking all those questions. So I think really we've shifted from this sort of 90s idea of sustainability kind of being like, do the right thing for the planet, everyone, you know, and maybe it's because the conversation has shifted to like, okay, the planet's going to be okay, but we're not, like, actually people are not going to be okay if we don't make big shifts and changes. So I don't know if that urgency, and just obviously with what's going on with climate change, like it's become more prevalent, but that it kind of excites me because I think as we frame the opportunity to jump into the solutions and make those shifts, it feels like we spend less time trying to convince people about why we're choosing this or that or the other thing in the details. It feels like culturally people are getting on board with that idea. And I agree, it doesn't always cost more. So I think that's been exciting too, because I remember when I first started the green team at Science World and I was like trying to get everyone using single color print coupons and let's minimize them so we can afford the recycled paper. And I had to go to the CEO to like build the business case and like talk about why we needed to do this, because we were educating about sustainability, but we weren't doing it in-house. And now I don't have to have those conversations as much with people. Like you don't have to convince them as much. They kind of generally seem to get the gist that, yeah, that this is kind of, I don't know, maybe this is just the people I hang out with, but I find that's kind of exciting. It's on the radio all the time. It's like, great, climate change is on the radio. No, I'm not that excited about that, but you know what I mean? I hope.
Yeah. Progress.
Progress. It does feel like
Yeah.
it's become more popularized, which is exciting.
Umita, what do you think about sustainability as a buzzword and how it's changed over time, or what does it mean to you?
Every time somebody says that word and just says it to placate, I am highly irritated. I just say, what do you mean by that? You know, and going just the steps you make when it comes to sustainability. I really just be fair to the environment is what I'd prefer to think of it as, and not be so self-centered as human beings. Like, how is it going to help me? It's like I'm looking at a little frog in Belize and thinking, you know, oh, good, there are frogs here, you know? So sustainability, especially in developing countries, especially those that are funded by international organizations, they are used constantly. I'm going to give a little example, just a little fun one. So we had an audit for rural resilient Belize. They got $20 million for sustainability and environment. They arrived at our factory with 4 brand new vehicles, all the drivers in the vehicles, and only 6 people in all those in all 4 vehicles with their vehicle running with the driver in it. So it takes me to actually go to the drivers one by one, bang on the window and say, turn off those vehicles. And we are going to the farms, but we are not taking 4 vehicles. So it really, like, right down to the, like you said, Lisa, to the size of a print or to the color, you have to use this ethos in everything. Like you see it being done right in front of you, stop it.
Mhm.
And you might get a bad name, but I don't care anymore.
Yeah, and it's really in all the details, right? Like it is so many details. Love
I
I
that.
think
see
that
Charlene out there having a little smile. Carlene.
I think that's really interesting, and I think it speaks to sometimes the discomfort that you can have pushing up against culture. Like the parents who leave their cars running while they pick up their kids at daycare, at my daughter's daycare, drives me nuts. Would I ever say anything? Probably not. But how can we get to a point where we're all Umida who can, right? Just push back on some of these things that maybe we don't realize we're doing, or that as a society we've kind of just accepted. Oh, they don't want to be slightly uncomfortable, so they can't turn their car off for a second.
I will
know.
tell the Prime Minister that as well. When his entourage came here with 20 vehicles, he got it from me.
Mhm.
Wonderful. Fight the power.
It is
That's
shifting a little bit though, that people are kind of eco-shaming each other, I think, at least in my friend circle. I think that is starting to become a thing where people are actually more conscious, I hope anyways.
And I think that's a good segue into the next question I wanted to ask, which is about greenwashing and like efforts that, yeah, well, I'll leave that to the expert. Angela, can you tell us about greenwashing and what do you think small business owners can do to
Yeah,
avoid it?
if you Google it, you'll find a number of different, Google the 7 sins of greenwashing. I remember using that a lot in the early days of GreenStep when I started it back in 2008. But really the basis of greenwashing is that you are making false or exaggerated claims about the environmental or sustainability performance of your product or your service or your company. So just saying, oh, it's, you know, it's sustainable, or we're totally sustainable. Like, what does that mean? That, you know, back to Amita's point, like, what are you talking about? So tell me. And I think more and more now, all kinds of stakeholders, whether that's consumers or B2B clients or others, are saying, so tell me what that means. They're looking under the hood. Oh, so you recycle? That's the law in most, you know, that's a bylaw in most communities. That does not make you sustainable. It means you're compliant with local legislation. So, and just, I also wanted to highlight, you know, we're talking a lot about environmental sustainability, but of course there's now that, you know, there always has been the 4 pillars. There's the social, the environmental, the economic, and the cultural aspects as well. We tend to focus mostly on the environmental aspects at GreenStep, but I just want to highlight the importance of some of those other ones. But really, the greenwashing is essentially lying about how sustainable you are and not being able to back it up. The opposite of that, which also happens a lot, is something called green hushing. And that's really not talking about what you are doing, either because you haven't really thought about it. So I'd encourage everyone to go and think about, what are we doing that's actually sustainable, that we could be proud of, that's a starting point. And often people won't talk about it. In some industries, I've seen it more than others, where you're afraid, and larger companies sometimes are afraid of scrutiny or having people poke holes in their claims, so they don't say anything. But best practice would be really transparent, say, hey, you know what, we know we're not perfect, we're not sustainable yet, but we're working towards it. Here are some of the things that we've done. And more importantly, here's what we're planning on doing. These are our goals, and we're going to report out to you once a year to tell you the progress we've made towards those goals.
Yeah, wonderful. So it's all well and good for us to talk about being more sustainable. I think a lot of people who came here today want to know how they can actually action that within their businesses. So I'm wondering, let's start with Lisa. What kind of tangible steps can you talk about that you've done? And you're like a design studio, right? So maybe like you're not producing widgets or whatever. How can any kind of business become more sustainable?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of different places to go with this, but I think on reflecting on it, I do think, kind of in line with what Angela's talking about, like setting those key performance indicators for your company. That's part of why we went through the B Corp process, gave structure to what are we measuring? Why is this important to us? It starts with the values. And so getting the values for your company usually starts with, you know, the owner's values as well, but like, where's the opportunity? It's a whole business plan. essentially, but like what appeals to your business specifically in terms of how you can create impact, and you know, setting those key performance indicators has really helped us in the last couple of years. So I ran my own agency for a while and created this sort of collective of freelancers as a home for people who don't have a real job. And it just became a community, and then eventually incorporated as we were going through the getting to 80, which is a B Impact B Corp readiness program. Anyways, they talked a lot about green blushing, and I'm definitely a green blusher, and didn't want to talk about all the things we were doing because I just thought, oh, doesn't everyone do it that way? But I think that's when we started to build ELO with one of my longtime collaborators. We decided to incorporate as a benefit company, which in BC is a business model that ties you to your mission, which I thought, well, shouldn't all businesses have some sort of mission to contribute? Anyways, it seemed like a no-brainer. So it was kind of exciting to get to rebuild a business and integrate all the values that we've had in a more intentional way. So that's what we've been doing for the last couple of years. And I think, you know, those KPIs, like ours is like % revenues from clients who lead with their purpose-driven mission. Our goal is to get to 100% of our clients. And at first glance, you think, oh yeah, everyone's doing good. But when you really get into it, and like sometimes you think someone's doing really good, and then you get into it and you're like, whoa, like we got to let these guys go. They're really not like, sometimes there's that acknowledgement of like, this isn't good anymore. Like it feels like they're not being genuine or they're greenwashing. And sometimes we can influence them and shift their practice, and sometimes you can't. And in that case, we'll get out of there because our KPI is 100% of clients that lead with purpose-driven mission. And that's, for us, it's environmental and social sustainability is our main focus. But I think that's helped create a metric that is relatively easy to measure. You look at your revenues and you assign a percentage based on their values as a company. So folding that in has been powerful. I think it really has been, to just clarify who and why and all the things in between. But also something we've done that's quite also feels a no-brainer looking back is to embed some of we use Asana, it's a project management tool. We put a lot of the tips and tricks right into all of our templates. When we're onboarding a potential new client, we say, well, what does sustainability mean to you? Just asking that question, whether we're interviewing a collaborator or a client, like just asking those questions up front, make sure that we're getting more values alignment from the beginning. Our creative brief asks what impacts are important to you in line with your mission. Like we're not going to work without the mission, because we don't want to work for people who are like, I don't know, just make it cheap and fast and dirty. It's like, no, like you don't get away with that. So we're asking all those questions up front so that we can integrate in the process. And, you know, we do create waste because we are a communications design company, but we have a lot of intention, and we also have a lot of leverage to influence our clients in their print behaviors. So print and web, I mean, there's waste everywhere. I won't get into it. It's a huge life cycle analysis situation, but I don't know if that's
Yeah, I think
asking for, but I mean, there's a lot of different ways we've done little things all over the place.
I think something I pick up on there is building it into your system.
Yeah, and
so that it's not even a thought. You don't have to waste a thought on whether something is important. It's built into your systems. And I also like the thought of, as a services company, you still have the ability to nudge clients.
Yeah.
And I think that's powerful. There's probably a lot of services companies who are like, I don't know how to be more sustainable. I'm an accountant. But by embodying it in your values, you can nudge. Umina, what do you think? Yeah. What kind of tangible actions have you taken as a business? Are you have any stories to share?
Lots, and I'm so proud of them. Number one
wonderful.
These are some of our groups. There are 350 of them in this little part of Belize, in the southern Belize. So when we started, we said, no fertilizer, no herbicides, no watering. Luckily, we have a plant that can be grown in and amongst other things. So the forest ecosystem remains intact. For every 1,000 pounds we buy, our farmers plant 10 indigenous trees. So we're increasing that. No watering, as I mentioned. So it's very climate adaptable. It's very climate resilient. Then when it comes to the factory, when we process, we have some solar energy in processing, but we also watch our energy output. For example, as simple as this, when you're out on your lunch break, turn off your lights in the AC system. You know, simple things like that. And then we, in our work, of course, we have glass bottles. Now, during COVID, you could only, these were, we couldn't get them. And our orders, because we produced turmeric, were getting higher, and people were looking at anti-inflammatory, antioxidant stuff, and we couldn't supply, we couldn't get the bottles, and we were being people were trying to force us to go to plastic, and we didn't. We almost lost our company because of that. So you have to be really careful, but I decided, okay, shut the factory down. Team Nalido in Belize, you're gonna have to take a little break till we can find some bottles worldwide. We make sure that our labels are also, you know, able to be recycled and all that. But I think the main impact is influence. We do so many things, from the garbage to all that stuff, but in Belize, so a Canadian company can impact in other parts of the world by setting examples, because we can't act like we know it all. We definitely don't, because in the 70s, Canada's there was garbage everywhere. We've just become better at hiding it. So in Belize, we are, you know, always picking up plastics from the ocean. We're like a block away from the sea. We talk about environment with our Maya Mopan and Maya Kechi growers and our East Indian growers. What are you doing? How are they thinking? And you would be amazed that the Maya people are already like right in there. But then there's other things. For example, they have to wash the turmeric at their farm. So many of them wash it in the river. And when you wash something in a river, the silt goes in the river. These small indigenous fish die. So they're used to doing their laundry at the river and all that stuff. So we created a new washing machine that's like a washing machine that they can use by hand, and the silt pours out onto where the turmeric is growing. But in every aspect, I look at it, and I am so diligent. Oh yeah, here's a funny one. All our team members come to work either by bus, motorbike, or bicycle. Our team really starts to care. But here's a wacky one. So in Belize, they tend to want to drink a lot of Coca-Cola here. So they go to the store and they bring the Coke in a plastic bottle. I've forbidden that. I said, we have a container with the glass bottles. You must return it. I don't want to see plastic in our garbage at all. So it can get as spooky as looking in garbage cans and seeing what is being put out there. So yes, we're lucky we're working, but I have to say that as a international development and business person, I've seen international development done so wrong so many times. And this whole environmental washing of the blue economy, the green economy, all these governments in developing countries are getting a heck of a lot of money to clean up the environment. For example, there's garbage facilities built in Belize, 6 of them, amazing facilities. And for the last 5 years, the sorting has not been done. They continue to burn everything, and this beautiful facility sits there. So look at literal examples and say, okay, how can I fix that? Okay, maybe then I have to contact politicians and say, what are you doing with that garbage thing? Because I am producing some plastic, but it's going straight into the environment. Anyway,
Yeah, avoid plastic.
I think those are wonderful examples of, as a goods producing company, you can do a lot. And you can have a lot of influence on your company. It's your company. You can do what you want with it, right? If you don't want glass
And
bottles in there.
I can do that. And Lisa and Angela, those things, what you do is so important in helping other companies sort themselves out, because it's getting too late and we cannot keep, chit-chatting about it. This is like the action. So if I can say anything, I see Toby out there is shaking her head. Look in your garbage. Look at the way you do everything, and action. You can get a consultant to help you, but a lot of it is common sense. Thank you. Sorry. Go on and on. I'm so bad.
Brava. I think that's what people want to hear, right? I think people don't want to hear the same old stuff about the greenwashing kind of level. It's nice to hear such inspiring stories about what you can do. So Angela, we'll go back to you. You're obviously working with lots of businesses every day, and it can be daunting and intimidating to start to make changes towards being a more sustainable business, especially when a lot of people are just trying to keep the lights on. COVID, debt loads, everything is conspiring to make things difficult. What are some low-hanging fruit that people can do now?
Yeah, I want to start with a suggestion that certainly, brainstorm what those low-hanging fruit opportunities are, and I'll share some with you. But before even doing that, engaging your team, maybe if you're a solopreneur or you just have a really small team, maybe it's all of you, but you dedicate some regular time, call it a green team, call it something else, once a week, once a month at minimum, where you're getting together and you're setting some goals, you're looking at your operations. So you have some goals with some targets that you can measure your progress towards. And then you look at those goals and you brainstorm all of the ways that your company can start changing things in order to achieve those goals. And maybe some of them are things that you can't do for another 5 or 10 years. That's okay. Write it down, put it as a long-term goal. But there are going to be lots of things you can do right now that aren't going to cost any money, that are simply going to be behavior changes. So engaging your team, getting that rhythm going, and starting to make some progress. It's also, if you can, around some of those things. For example, if you want to measure your carbon footprint, or you want to do a waste audit, as Yumita suggested, literally dumpster diving. If you're interested in doing this, I can send you a link to some free resources on how to do a waste audit. Not dumpster diving. You set aside your garbage before it goes into the dumpster. Dumpster diving is not safe. And you literally rip open the bags of it and you categorize what was actually garbage, what could have been recycled, if it went to the depot or if it went into the recycling bin, what could be eliminated, what shouldn't be in here, what can we get out of our waste stream, what could have been composted. That's a really interesting exercise to go through, and then looking at what are the ways of actually diverting waste from the landfill. That's really getting to zero waste, is 90% diversion from the landfill. That's a really fun exercise to do with your team. We have a worm bin in our office. So worms eat our garbage. It's a worm composter. It's pretty cool. There's a great company in Canada called Wormbox. If you Google Wormbox, you'll find it. And others, they provide resources on how you can do that within your own office to deal with your organic waste, if you don't have organic pickup, in which many cities do now, but we don't in Kelowna. Energy management, simple as turning off the lights, setting your thermostat or programming your thermostat. If you don't have a programmable thermostat, you can get rebates for them, or they're not that expensive, so that you're able to reduce that energy consumption when you're not in the office, or in your workspace in the evenings or overnight, whenever that might be. Those are some low cost, no cost opportunities that you can take to get started right away. And thinking about that supply chain, what are things you can eliminate coming into your business? Single-use plastics, Keurigs, you can get little refillable ones if you still like the convenience of that. Energy, water, waste, water, faucet aerators, simple way of changing water flow through the business. So those are some low-hanging fruit things, but I would encourage you, first, you can go out and do a bunch of stuff, but that can be overwhelming and you don't really know when you've succeeded. So having some goals and an action plan, when is it going to get done? Who's it going to get done by? And I love the comment. That's one of the philosophies we live, that sustainability should become not another thing you do. Oh, we got to do our sustainability thing. It should become woven into the fabric of your company. This is how we do things. And you might just start with baby steps, but then it just becomes part of every decision you make. As you get further down that path, it becomes embedded in who you are.
Ellie, can I just add something right there?
Please.
It's not only what's happening inside your organization, but Lisa, you mentioned working with others. For example, we work with the Royal Bank, and I'm pissed off at them for all this oil and gas investment. So when I get back to Canada, I'm moving to Van City because that kind of company represents us better. So who you work with, even the accounting firm, say, hello,
Indeed.
what are you doing?
Your supply chain. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a question from, I think, Heidi here about things you can do for remote contacts. If you know, maybe you're working from home, look at what you're doing in your own home. You know, what are some of those opportunities? But things like, who are your suppliers? Who are you partnering with? Who are you banking with? Are they local? Are they women owned or minority owned? Do they share similar values? Those are all really cool things to consider. That don't require a bricks and mortar facility to make choices around.
I just want to add to that too, like one of the other, when we evaluated our impact years ago, it was like, okay, we don't print paper, we're 100% digital. We all work from our home offices out of choice. We've been working virtually for 10 years. So I'm really excited the rest of the world has joined the virtual party, because I used to have to give tutorials on how it was okay to have a Zoom meeting instead of flying to Campbell River or flying to Vancouver for every little thing. It's like culturally now we're in an opportunity where people, you know, sometimes when you have a giant meeting, you really, you know, you're spending the money on the flight and maybe it's worth it, but travel is a major impact. The cost, I mean, saving one flight a year could negate all the other practices that you're doing with some of the smaller steps. So I think that's one of the low hanging fruits we forget about, is the choice, maybe the privilege to travel. It's got a huge cost to the environment. So living and working where you need to go and be every day is like one of the impacts my family made, and my business partner too. Like she lives in Edmonton. Like we see each other once a year. We're totally cool with that. Like it's a big choice, but I do think the impacts are huge. Normalizing that, right? No, we're just online here. It's cool. Everyone's cool.
Just to loop back to what Angela was saying, I like that you're starting kind of what Lisa was talking about too, about making it part of your system. Get it in the calendar. Start with the values, start with the basics. Well, not the basics. Start with like your grounding. Where is this all coming from? And if you can build it into your systems, then you can do more, make a bigger impact. So we had a question there. I want to go back to that question, and then I want to wrap up talking a little bit about B Corps if we can. Someone had asked about cloud stuff. I'm wondering if someone can speak a little bit to environmental impacts of all of our stuff moving in the cloud now. It feels like it's something that's a little bit invisible, but is there anything people should be thinking about there?
We're actually we haven't signed the contract yet, but we're potentially being hired to do a green IT assessment for a large federally owned financial institution. I won't say any further that the focus is on entrepreneurs. But so they've done something called the Gartner assessment. It's a green IT assessment that they've done. I'm not sure if that's available for free online, the questions related to that. But as we're looking at that, some of the things that I've come across are, you know, the amount of data that we storage in the cloud. Like every email that you save, every document that you save, all of that is taking up space in a server somewhere that may or may not be fueled by a renewable energy source and is creating a carbon footprint. So that's something that at GreenStep, we just sort of realized that, like, version control, maybe not having 18 copies of every single document, like just save the final one or use Google Doc or something that allows you to track that version history. So you really only need one copy of that document, just as an example. Who are you hosting your website with? Like, that's like, is that a carbon neutral hosting provider, or is it a hosting service that or a company that has similar values? So those kinds of suppliers as well are important considerations.
And I think just to build on that too, the file management, I think I need to write a course about this, because it's something we obsess about at ELO, because we get so many files from people. Like, they'll send us like megabytes and gigabytes of like images, and way too much sometimes. And then, you know, if you don't properly sort through your files, and maybe that speaks to my value around efficiency, but if you're duplicating that, and then you're creating the layout file, then you're creating the outputs to that file, and if people are making a big old mess back there, then it creates so much more bloat in the storage. So just being conscious of what you're storing. And like, yes, I'm a fan of high resolution files, because obviously if you're going to do something beautiful, you want to be able to do that, but you don't need to, like, if it's named improperly, sometimes that can make it the need for it to be duplicated, and you don't even know you have 70 copies of a 20 gigabyte file on your system. So I think, yeah, that's an angle to take in terms of waste too.
Right. We're getting into our last 10 minutes or so. I wanted to leave a minute for 1 or 2 questions at the end, but before that, I just wanted to chat quickly about B Corps. Because we have no, Angela, are you a B Corp?
We are, yeah,
Sure.
since 2015.
We have
All
3
three,
B
I
Corps
think.
here. So maybe Umita, what has been the value to you of getting that B Corp certification?
All right, so we went to a trade show in London, in the fancy food trade show. Then we went to the biggest trade show in the whole wide world in Seattle, in Paris. And you know what? In Europe, they know what B Corp is. You're just like, and we are a B Corp. Oh, excellent. Okay, so then we get distribution. I would say B Corp is like an air word in North America. It's just, in the US, not there really. So
What is
I
a B Corp?
Yes.
what?
What is a B Corp?
What is a B Corp?
Yeah,
Who's asking that?
Safura.
Oh, okay. Oh, very good question. A B Corp is that these pillars that you work on with environment, community, governance, profitability, governance, yes, all those things. Everything a business does is analyzed, and then we look and see, are we doing it well enough? Can we do it better? And those are my just plain English terms for what I think a B Corp is. A B Corp is a social enterprise that's behaving in an appropriate manner in its community and in its environment. So with B Corp, that was our really wonderful aspect, was to see response to the B Corp. And you can say, well, we're one of 10,000, so we're very elite, and we hope to be one of, you know, in Belize, we're like, there are 2 B Corps. So we can, but educating the public exactly what is a B Corp is really B Corp's objective. They should be doing a little bit more of that so that it works for us. But B Corp, having it on, we have it on our label there, and wherever we can put it, I think it makes a real difference. But you know what? I just, when I see things going sideways in our factory, I say, remember, we're a B Corp. We can't do that. We need to find a different way.
Yeah.
Yeah, give me a suggestion. Huh?
Yeah, for those who aren't familiar, it is a formal certification process, and there is like a certifying body that will review your application, and it's a pretty rigorous process.
Yeah.
Lisa, you just got your certification, right?
Yeah, we did. I have to say, I wanted to be a B Corp like 10 years ago, but they didn't have sole proprietors then. And anyway, sole proprietors, it's hard to find time to do that kind of stuff. We were 1% for the planet members, which if you're looking for something that shows your alliance to your values, I do recommend 1% for the planet too. That just means you give back 1% of your revenues and you donate to whoever you want, but it's organizations and NGOs that have a mission. So if you want an easier process, but B Corp has been instrumental in learning and redeveloping our business. I mean, I never went to school for business, and I felt like going through the B Corp process was so educational, and I love their format, and it's free. So you can go into the assessment. It's free until you want to certify and tell people about it. So I love that too, because, you know, a lot of people could have put a paywall on that, but their mission is really to get every business to be better. And I think it speaks to that idea of sustainability never being done. They keep trying to raise the bar, and that's the goal with B Corp. They talk about 80 being the minimum, but I think they're going to start to raise that as they see more people take on. And I think, you know, if you like to be the measurement and kind of feedback, I think that was really rewarding too, is getting positive feedback for some of the stuff.
Yeah.
Why are we getting points for that? Oh, cool. Good job, me. You know, like, you need a little encouragement along the way. I think they've nailed it. They've done a great job with the system.
The paywall, like for a company like ours, was 700 Canadian dollars, which was affordable.
Yeah.
At that point. But you can negotiate with them. Try. And,
good tip.
like, if you're a small little company and you really want to make a difference, try and negotiate.
And as a woman-owned companies also get a discount. We've been a B Corp since 2015. I found the process to be extremely valuable in providing ideas for things we could do to be a better company that I hadn't thought about, or to just remind me of some of the best practices for operating a really sustainable business that I aspired to, and things that we weren't able to do right away as a small company. We still certified. We I think when we first got certified, we were over 90 points. We've been best for the world, being in the top 10 or 5% of B Corps internationally in our category for every single year since we've certified, actually, which has been really exciting. It really is inspiring. It provides, it's, again, as mentioned, it's a free assessment. So I'd encourage everybody, I put the link to the B Impact Assessment in the chat to go ahead and do that free assessment. I'll also plug, we have an assessment tool for tourism businesses. So if there's anyone who works in the tourism sector in any way, we have an online free assessment. It's sort of like B Corp for tourism, although we don't go into the governance and worker side of things. We base our criteria on the Global Sustainable Tourism Council, but following B Corp's lead, we made that available for free, because I really think if everyone could just use that free tool and assess their performance, companies would just be better instantly if everyone was at least using that as a guiding light.
Oh, I'd love to see that tool, the tourism tool.
Yeah, I'll share the link in the chat as well.
Wonderful. So I thought I would open it up for, we probably only have time for one question or so, 1 or 2 questions. If anyone wants,
the best part.
I know. If anyone wants to raise a hand, we can do that way, or you can put a question in the chat if there's anything burning. I think it's really great to talk about B Corps, because it's a way of showing to the world that you've really embedded sustainability into your values. So it's one of those ways of just showing to the world, this isn't greenwashing, this is literally built into everything that we do, which I think more and more people are finding the value in, and you get to put it on your product, you can advertise it.
You're not perfect. You're not done just because you're a B Corp too. I think that part is well communicated and encouraged.
Okay, we have a question here from Niall. Hi.
Hi, yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, great. Thanks for having this Death Cafe. Sorry, I do Death Cafes. Thanks for having this Earth Day Cafe on Green Stuff. So I'm the owner of a small funeral business, death care business, and this is an area where I feel like there's just so much room for us to do better, and there's not a lot going on in it, and so I really struggle to be able to offer the practices, the services, and be true to sustainable practices. And so my question is about like I try and source products that are either made locally or made in Canada, or failing that, they're at least of a sustainable, made sustainably, their materials and so on. But what happens a lot is that products are being made elsewhere. So overseas, a lot of them in Asia, they're wicker, they're biodegradable, and then being shipped here. And I'm just curious from the three of you on the panel, what your thoughts are around, like how, to what extent do entrepreneurs go to try and keep the products that they're sourcing to sell to others as local as possible, versus going for a product that's sustainably made, but it's being imported from Asia?
If you don't mind, I'll just add that when you're working in developing countries, bottles are really all made in China. And so we source them from the US. We try and source, they are importing it from China. So some of the, we use Canadian labels because there's no company in Belize that can produce what we're trying to do. That's where you get some challenges. But exporting, not just importing, exporting, like say a whole bunch of turmeric, we try and wait for the export till we can fill a container, and then the container goes to Florida and then goes everywhere else, instead of going little bit, because every time we do that, there's more pollution. So I think that's a challenging one, sourcing close, have to dig in.
And we just have maybe 1 minute for another answer on that question. I think that's the only question we're going to have to be able to take. Sorry, Julie.
Go ahead, Angela.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it is a tough one. We do a lot of life cycle impact research and analysis for companies like Pila and Tentree. So we actually dig into what is the impact of those products from, where you purchase them, or where the cotton seed is planted, to when that t-shirt is hopefully donated at the end of its life, and all of the impacts along. I think the easy answer is what resonates most with your values is supporting the local economy and trying to find those Canadian producers or even Canadian suppliers that are importing it from somewhere else. Where are the dollars from that purchase going to go? That's one way of looking at it, where, I realize this is probably being made in China, but I'm going to purchase it from a local supplier to keep those dollars in the local economy. On the flip side of that, if maybe there is something that's more sustainably produced in another country, maybe that's where you're really feeling like where you want to support that manufacturer or a supplier that's providing something more sustainable because of the environmental impacts or social impacts that product creates. So I think it really comes down to values, unless you want to get into doing the math and the science around the impacts.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Angela. I'm just going to wrap this up for us today.
Can I just say something to everyone? Oh my goodness, ladies, it's been wonderful to work on the panel with you, but to those that have come from all the way from British Columbia, all the way to Ontario, everywhere, keep trying. We can make the world a better place. And thank you so much for attending.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Umita. We really appreciate you. And of course, Angela and Lisa, such inspiring stories, I think, today. And I hope that everybody can go off into the world and make their little corner a better place. And you never know where your changes are going to reach. Before we go, just wanted to plug one of our next skills development workshops, which is about turning growth pains into business gains. A great title. So stay tuned for that one, and make sure you subscribe to our eBlast so you can keep apprised of our latest offerings. Thank you so much, everyone. We hope we can join you again.
Thank you.
Hi, Kelly. I was at the
Enjoy the rest
launch
of your
of the
day.
poll.
This was so
Oh,
fun.
sorry. Yeah, we have to
Sounds
launch the poll.
wonderful. Yeah, we'll launch it right now.
Cole, don't leave.
Sorry, I
there we
forgot
go.
about the
Poll,
polls.
Oh? What?
Sorry, there's going to be, Jen is going to launch a feedback poll, and that's the way that we learn more about how you like the session and
Oh.
whether there's anything else that you'd like to see in the future. So please, sorry for a false start there, false stop.
Thank you. Yeah, I've got it launched now, so we'll leave it out there for a minute and appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. We'll keep it open.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thanks, everyone.
Wonderful. The polls are new, sorry.
Yes, no, sometimes it can be hard to say it. And then I'm like, I sent you a text. I was like, oh, don't forget the poll. Because I'm learning that I'm new on the polls too. So
It's great to learn. It's great to be able to ask right after the session how people have enjoyed it.
so I don't think anyone else is responding. We've got 21 people that did, so I'm going to end it now. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks again.
Thank you. Hope everyone has a great day.